Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of the Dooms and the Don'ts. We're starting with today recaps Insecure. And today we're recapping season 5, episode 6. A lot happened, and of course we have the one and only Jay Hall joining us shortly, so stay tuned. Grab something to sip on, and we'll get started very, very shortly. So hopefully you had a chance to watch this evening's episode. All right, so Jay's here, so I'm about to add him now.
You.
Hey Jay, how are you?
I'm good. Let me turn this around. There we go.
Hey.
Hey.
1 second. I'm trying to pin the notes. It'll let me join. All right. All right. So we're recapping Insecure, season 6, episode 5, 6, episode 6. Sorry, it's a lot going on. Let me get it together. All over the place was the language Nathan gave Issa. So I had a lot of thoughts, but let me just say you were right, like from jump. I know.
Wait. I was right? What was I right about?
Right.
About what?
So you have been talking this entire series. We've been doing the recaps about how there are always consequences to your decisions. Like there's always consequences, and you can't avoid it, and it just is what it is. And so today those consequences begin to like come to a head. You know what I'm saying? And they actually use the language that you use about having those consequences. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It put the whole thing was about the decisions that you make. Whether if it's right or wrong, but if you made that decision within that time, you have to live with that decision. And so we saw very early Issa's imagination was really running away with her. We're used to seeing Issa's imagination play with her like once in one scene, but this one she could not let go.
Right.
And even though you are with a man and you are sitting in this seat, your brain is elsewhere. Mind you, we have to understand Issa doesn't know what we know, right? She doesn't know what their relationship is. And for what we know, we don't know, right?
That's right.
She just saw that image of that black family, and she can't control herself. And now she has to live. And when Condola, the imagination of her, shows up and says that you delivered him to me, that's her instincts, and that's how she feels, talking to her.
And that's such a real emotion because I feel like so many women have felt like they have cultivated a man, raised a man, upgraded a man, only for the next woman, a person, partner to benefit. You know what I'm saying? It's very frustrating. And I think, kind of just really goes to the title where how that makes you feel so insecure, and how her insecurities are still haunting her, to this day.
Yeah, and the thing is, I never really understood that. It's probably because I'm a man and it's a blind spot, of you being upset that someone is going to run off with someone else, or you're like, they're going to go off and they're going to get married. Because I'm like, well, if you was done with the person, you was done with the person. It shouldn't matter what their actions are, afterwards. Because, I admit, as a guy, a lot of times we don't necessarily think that. Or not a lot of us, I would say, think that. Where we're like,
really?
Nah, man, because it's more like unfortunately, you got one half of men who might think it's a conquering thing. So their ego won't let that part sit. It's like, well, I had this individual, I had this woman. The other part of men, they both are going to keep it inside. The other part of the men is going to feel like, well, guess what? I'm better off. I'm going to use this to move forward in that sense. I'm going to be strong and stuff like that. So it's one of those things, but you don't hear a lot of conversation, I would say, amongst a tribe of men. With all the conversation we have of like, I had this woman and I took her from here to here, and now she's living better than how, or she's living that. they don't normally admit that out loud. I'm not saying what men don't feel, but
Do men go into the thing like I
do
think
they what?
women? I would just I would
What's the question? I
say
didn't hear the question. What's the question? You said do men what?
do men upgrade women? Like, just in general, like
Well, it depends on
maybe.
how you.
Yeah,
It depends
I
on.
guess
It
so.
depends
You
on
know what
how
I'm
you
saying?
look at
Some
it.
way.
It depends on how you look at it, because you might not look at it as an upgrade. They're
Mm,
going to look at it as an upgrade. You understand? So,
yeah.
like for me, if you, for example, if your wife is Angela Bassett, there's no more of an upgrade for me. I'm like, that was the Halle
She
Berry.
came
I'm like,
in. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
I'm looking at it like, yo, that's everything you can want, right? But it seems like a lot of men, when they go from one, it seems like the next woman they had has like doesn't have as much as the next one, but they almost seem happier. I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
don't know. I think that might be subjective. I
Yeah,
think that
I agree.
I do think that the more freedom a man has, the more we see his truth. What he deals with when he's not able to have a bunch of freedom and a bunch of choices versus what he has when he has a lot of freedom, lots of choices. I think you see his
Mm,
real truth.
that's really deep. I absolutely agree with that, and I think that kind of applies probably both, but definitely for men and black men specifically.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, there's no question about it. But you do hit that conversation. I mean, I've heard it with my homegirls. Like I've been with this guy for 5 years, and I don't want him to go and get married to the next girl. Or my last man, that's what he did. I mean, I've dated women where they were still dealing with that, where they hear that their boyfriend is now married, and now here I am coming along, and it's not a fun thing to do. So it's a lot of that going on. So I think Issa did it in a playful way, but
Right.
that's
It's
a
a real
real thing.
conversation. It's a real feeling. I absolutely agree. And then I think to you just kind of to the point of like trying to wrestle, what is your truth? And I think that's kind of what both Issa and Molly like had to address this episode. And I thought it was really well done. I thought the comedic scenes were a little over the top, but I appreciated the sentiment that they were trying to drive home for sure. Um, I think for me with Issa, it felt so. I'm not sure if I'm still a fan of Nathan, but Issa hasn't found her footing in that relationship. I'm not sure if it's her fault or if it's Nathan's fault. You know what I'm saying? Or it's both their faults.
I think what we're seeing is an example of two people that just because you have the same personality don't mean you should be together.
Ooh,
And I'm wishing for them because I
ooh,
told you I've saw that relationship grow. So I'm not so pro Lawrence that I'm anti Nathan, but
right.
I do feel like they both have issues with confrontation.
Ooh. And that was in the last scene, right? Like, she was like, well, you're
Yeah,
avoiding it. And then he was like, all right, let's have the conversation. And then she was like, let's dead this. Like, you
right.
either want to have the conversation or you don't want to have the conversation. You know?
Yeah. And we saw that with Nathan in the barbershop. Like he doesn't deal with direct confrontation. I want to get it clear. It doesn't mean Nathan is scared. Some people
Right.
just don't
I
deal
didn't
with,
get he was scared. I
no,
thought that it
some
was
people
like,
don't deal with confrontation well.
right. And I don't think, I think for what I saw from that scene with the barber was that he doesn't have too much of a middle ground. So we know, like when we first met Nathan, it's what season 2, season 3, in the party lift, that when he was defending Issa, this person he just met, like he ended up punching this guy because he didn't like put out the weed or whatever, and
Right.
I feel like so with Nathan, his temperament is that hey, I cannot handle I don't know what I'm gonna do when I hit 10, so I'm gonna just fall back. That resonates with me a lot too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I kind of can see that. I kind of can see that, but I can also see the faults in it too because
Yeah.
it causes you that situation with the barber could have just been handled just like that. You know what I mean? Like it didn't have to be a big ordeal. It could have been like, hey bro, I did it and you moved on. It doesn't always have to be this standoff. Now, it does lead to this whole bipolar thing that, you know, when the dude called him bipolar, and it
Right.
makes you want to wonder, like, okay, was that like public knowledge? Was that
Right.
supposed to be a secret that someone told? Either way it goes, Nathan shut down,
Right.
right? Issa shut down, and they both are the same when it comes to that. They do this little shutdown thing, and I gotta tell you, like, I don't know if it can't work like that.
It's not
Somebody
the
has
same.
to be the Yeah, somebody has to be the individual to be like, you know, let's go across this line, this finish line together. And it doesn't seem like right now, as much as we saw their characters evolve, it doesn't seem like neither one of them are the type to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I really felt Nathan's response at the end where he's basically like, you know, you've been inconsistent, you know, and Issa pulls back and she's still, you know, even in her mind, it's still going back and forth between him and Lawrence. And it's really hard to say, I'm going to be all in when, you know, Nathan needs to feel secure in this space too. And I don't think he's gotten that validation he needs as well.
And thank you for saying that, because I think that's the part that everybody was missing last week when she said, I love you, and Nathan, quote unquote, verbally didn't say it back. A lot of times with women, not all, of course, but some women, they feel like if I say I love you, that's it. That's the final thing, right? And they forget about all the other things that they did. Nathan is still holding on and remembering all those other things that you did. So it's kind of like, okay, you said you love me. You probably do, but I don't know. I need, to what you just said, Charlotte, I need more security to feel like this relationship can be something that can be fluent, where I can say I love you back and you can say you love me or whatever. But I think sometimes with men and women, right? Like, women have been conditioned to just, if I just say I love you and I just present myself, then nothing else, everything else should be cool. Men feel like, as long as I do this duty, you know what I mean, I show up like a man, everything else is cool. Like what you had pointed out 2 episodes ago, when Lawrence just felt like all he had to do was show up.
Yeah.
And I feel like both sexes can be guilty of that at times.
Absolutely.
It's a different type of show up. But I
Absolutely.
think both of them can be guilty of that. And for me, that's what that displayed. Like, Issa probably feels like, I said I love you. That's what men want to hear. So I should be fine. And Nathan is like, yo, this is only a day and a half of this, but we got about 2.5 years of you doing this.
Right.
So I love you alone is not going to cut it.
I agree. And I still go to the fact that, you know, Nathan has shown, like what he said, like, you know how I feel about you. Like, why are you making this an issue? Red said he wanted to be told he was right when he said Issa don't like him for real. Okay, Red, you got it.
Ah, man, I'm not gonna lie to you. It looks scary.
It does. It does. It does.
I mean,
I
can't
so
say,
awkward.
Red. I mean, I don't know if I want to call it an overreach, because right now it looks like Nathan might have been the safe choice.
So crazy though. It's so crazy.
And I know Nathan, I know it's been some team Nathans out there, but it's looking like Nathan was a safe choice. And it's looking like one
Or
of
a
the
backup
situations of
choice.
that.
A backup. That's what it felt like.
What's the difference between a backup and a safe choice, you would
I
say?
think safe is like, oh, you know, this person does everything. She checks the boxes for me. He checks the boxes for me. So I'm gonna go with this, whether there's a strong emotional connection or not, right? I think she was her first choice at the juncture where she had came into her own is Lawrence. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I
Okay.
think she only redirected from the path she was on with Lawrence after he got Condola pregnant.
Yeah, that's real. And knowing that he's now back in LA.
She felt some
And
type of way. Why she on his Instagram? Get off his Instagram.
and it's also the same thing she kind of felt with the bank teller, in the sense that you're seeing Lawrence make these from afar, make these choices that you feel like he couldn't make for you.
Ooh,
Like, you're
that's
seeing
real.
Lawrence play this adult thing with someone else. So he moved to LA And you can say, and she's probably not thinking this for his son, but she's like, yo, he's back in LA. He did this to be with her. Like, she's drawing all these conclusions. And that's another thing that needs to be tackled, of how we create these narratives in our head.
Not even just like a paragraph. We're talking about novels, a movie, a
whole series, yo.
You know,
a whole series in our head.
A single speck of information. But you know, it just really comes back to these choices that you brought up, and I think it's really important because Lawrence was still available to her even after he got Condola pregnant. You know what I'm saying? Lawrence showed up for her prior to us finding out that Condola was pregnant. He was being all in. He was the man that she finally wanted. He was, you know, present. He was proactive. He was, you know, taking initiative, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if that's a right or wrong, you know what I'm saying? But if it's gonna be haunting her entire life, or you know, while she's trying to navigate these relationships, then she should have at least gave it, I guess, more of a try. She tried, but she didn't want to try. But I think she was more like, I'm not sure if that's what she wanted, is what I'm trying to say.
You know what it reminded me of? When me and you was binging the season, remember that real short scene when Lawrence was talking to his father, and his father was like, you kids just don't want to put in the work.
Ooh.
And so regardless of what choice you feel like Issa should be, whether you feel like she should be with Nathan or whether you feel like she should be with Lawrence, there does seem to be a reluctancy to want to put in work. And
that's such a personal. Let me just.
Yeah. And I just want to say, like, anybody who might hear this might say, well, what about the fact that she paid rent and Lawrence's depression? You putting up with something is not putting in work. Okay. It's not the same thing. It can look it, but it's not the same thing. I mean, listen, I've been guilty of feeling that way too. I've been guilty of, if you fix a car only when your car is giving you problems, that's not taking care of your car. That's when right. I go get my oil change, and they always telling me this list of things that my car can need for service, you know what I say? Just keep the oil change, right? But if my car starts breaking down, that's on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not putting in work, like investing in my car, that my car has a long, me and my car have a long, like, time together, whatever the case, right? And there seems to be a reluctancy of actually putting in work. Nathan that relationship is going to need work.
Yeah.
The choice to be with Lawrence was going to require work.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the thing. You can't do work thinking it's going to be some sort of instant gratification about it. You don't know if the work you would have put in with Lawrence would have caused Lawrence to move back. You don't know that, right? So you can't do it based upon this theory that if you ain't going to get what you want right then and there, then all of a sudden it's like, well, it's going to be some work. And listen, work don't always have to be this mental labor, this, oh, I'm tired or anything like that. Right. Work can be fun. Like, you know, me and you got a mutual couple that we love. They've been together damn near 2 decades, and they'll tell you right now it ain't work. But I do feel like they've been putting in work, but they've been putting in joyful work. Like, work is not always this, like, head, ice pack, arguing. It is patience, virtue, loving, waiting, conversation, and all of that. And it seems to be none of that when it comes to Issa in her choices of, if you were going to be with Nathan, you're going to be with Lauren. It seemed like you wanted it to be presented to you. Like, Molly kind of fell into that same trap. And I think what we're seeing from Molly, right, to kind of pivot to her, is this kind of, you can't control everything.
Yeah, which is beautiful. Right? But to that point, what I will give Issa credit for is that she has pivoted to actually showing up and doing the work with Molly and understanding that she has to be present and invest in that relationship for it to grow. And I think we are seeing the fruits of that Molly's beginning to trust Issa in a way we haven't seen ever, because Issa has not been trustworthy, you know, in that friendship.
Thank you.
Before, with big stuff, with heavy stuff, right?
With heavy stuff, yes. With heavy stuff, yes.
And Molly really needs Issa to be, you know, a stable crutch for her right now. And Issa is showing up and being present and doing that. And I think so much so it subconsciously, I think, allows Molly to, like, go into this, you know, work atmosphere and like let her guard down and party and get drunk and who knows what she did with Torian. And so I think there's something there to like Issa got it and she'll let me know if anything changes. I think for Molly to see her, I think her work has been, still the struggle with herself, but I think she's working through the uncomfortable, and I think Issa has yet to kind of in her relationships kind of find her way through the uncomfortable piece.
Well, I mean, but we often find that in people in general. We find
right.
people who might invest more in friendships and they'll invest more in their romantic side. We find people who invest in their romantic side, but they don't feel like they owe their friends anything, right? And I think anything. And I think one of the great things about the show is that it shows relationships and work and investments should be a balance of all, because you have that amongst guys. Like, guys don't feel like they need to invest in keeping a healthy relationship amongst each other, because I know I wasn't taught that, right? You just kind of taught you get along with your homeboy until you don't get along with your homeboy. But guys need to invest in each other. And sometimes men invest too much, and then they think their woman is just supposed to be present. And you have to learn how to do more when it comes to that too. What do you think about Molly not telling her job about her mom?
I think she still was trying to prove herself and still trying to fit in, but I think it's coming from again this deeply insecure place, like, trying to I think juggling it all as she's been taught to do and socialized to do. But I think more so, like, I feel like if she felt like she had somebody to trust, I mean, of course we see this at the end, but I feel like she had someone she trusted before, they had the conversation with Torian, then I feel like she would have been able to share. So I think there were a lot of facets. Like, she hasn't been able to fit in. She hasn't been, able to let her guard down in a way that she needed to build that trust with her new partners. And then in part, then they didn't trust her. Like, the trust issues are valid, but I feel like that's where it was coming from.
No.
But I think, at the end of the day, what we know is like that holding that weight in, it just causes more stress and more anxiety, right? Like, you have to be able to communicate to someone to know what's going on, so you can at least be able to like take some stuff off your plate or have somebody else, have your back on some project. So
yeah, I see Red said, he wouldn't tell his job, his personal business either. But my thing is to not even tell them that you got something personal going on. You don't have to go into details. But
you can say a family emergency.
Yeah. But I think it also
know anything beyond that.
But I think it also goes to the fact, Charlotte, you and I had these conversations on the side that, remember, Molly was at a white office, a firm before, and now she's with a black firm, right? And oftentimes when you are the black person in a white space, you subconsciously feel as if your spot would be taken. So you don't want to take no time off or take no days off because you are in this race and you feel like your spot, you never feel that secure about your spot per se, no matter like high ranking you are. And one of the benefits of maybe being amongst a firm that's black, right, is being amongst people that are understanding or seeing other people that look like you and just not feeling that way to that level of feeling like everything's going to be taken from you, you're going to fall and things of that nature. And I think that plays a part, hence that retreat of being relaxed. Because and this is why, I'm always going to be a geek for Issa's writing. They made a note to remind you that, how Molly was, because she was always referring to her last job. Exactly. And that's where my mental note comes in. About
that's a great point.
Of how she was operating. And hence why she didn't want to tell anyone because of that. Because oftentimes we feel that way when we go into that work environment. And that's something that's a cultural thing that you have to be of this shade, to understand.
And that's a great point. And even that scene was so good because I feel like them, telling her the issues that they had, like connecting with her, and then also at the same time extending the offering to her to join this community that we have with each other, join, us after, like, where we can have these interpersonal, outings and friendships and relationships. That it doesn't have to be, you're not a robot here. You know what I'm saying? Like, we see the totality of you, and we don't hate you. We just need to let you know this is what it is here. You know what I'm saying? And so I really felt that was a really beautiful way, and like very realistic of how Black people would be like, yo, you doing X, Y, Z, and we just really trying to chill and relax. You want to drink? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, but isn't that the benefit of having Black faces in Black spaces? Is to not
right?
feel as if you are this rare commodity that you have to entertain. You're in this zoo, and if you don't entertain, you won't be fed. You
And
know,
then
like,
I just had another point. I'm sorry, but it made me think about this doing the work piece, right? Because I think a lot of times we don't think we need to do the work in a workplace, right? And so Molly just wanted everything to be rolled out to her in this new environment based off the experiences she had at this white firm, and everything she was asking for is probably doable, right? Like, but is it going to happen the first week she gets there? No, but she wanted to bring in DocuSign. I've done that with companies before. Like, you can do the work to make it happen, but it does take work, and to have that integration of the conveniences of her old firm, but have this authentic safe space, in her new firm.
yeah, I think that does speak to it, and I think even when they mention that hint of, yo, just go to Starbucks like the rest of us. You know what
Right,
I'm saying? Like, like you don't have to put down where
right,
you are, where you've been, because obviously you left, so you're here for a reason. So
right.
you
That's
you
right.
don't have to do that. I mean, how we thinking though when she looking at her coworker a little bit different though?
Hey, I loved how natural it was, that it wasn't Molly plotting or scheming or, all that. And I don't think that other person, I don't think Torian was either, right? I felt like it was just a natural, like, we can finally let our guards down. We finally can see people beyond just your title and, this facade that you've been putting on since you've been here, and vice versa, that we can finally have this real human, connection. And then, hey, the things that you value, I value too. The things that, are ambitious for you, like I share those ambitions, so I think there's a real common analogy there. I can see it working, if that's what they wanted to pursue. And I felt like it was good to see. It was such a it was a quick, slow character development, like that energy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We've seen Torian over the last couple seasons playing in the background. So to see him up front, and to really kind of take more of a lead role in this episode, which is beautiful to see. And it didn't feel forced or anything. It was really good. Hey, I love him with the camera. Just it was good energy.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to what happens when you stop looking for love the way it's supposed to be. So
Ooh,
like when you talked about the fact of like now your guard is let down.
yeah.
And a lot of times we go into relationship like you mentioned earlier about Molly going into attack mode all the time in relationships. When you stop thinking how it's supposed to be, like I'm
Mhm.
supposed to feel sparks, I'm supposed to, because you've been told all this stuff. You've been told
Right.
through fairy tales, TV shows, movies, rom-coms, everything of how something is supposed to be. When your guard is let down and you actually are seeing somebody for the first time, that is what it is. It's a selfish pursuit. It's selfish, and that's okay for it to be like that. Like this is how your story is supposed to be. If we're talking about them to be in a relationship, but listen, even if you're not saying they're going to be in a relationship, I think it's a testament to how relationships should be in that sense of stop going into something of how it's supposed to be. Like these things are supposed to be lined up. Like let your guard down. If you feel somebody, you feel somebody. And guess what? If it doesn't work out, that's fine. You don't have to put the guard back up. Like that person didn't come in your house and steal your jewelry. You know what I'm saying? And we keep taking these walks of life that every time things don't come out the way you want, all of a sudden we got to change all our passwords in our mind. We got to do
Listen,
this mental shutdown instead of just understanding that these are just the bumps in the road and we should just be able to move on. But
yeah,
it doesn't work like that.
I love that. I love that. And I think too, just Molly being in a more healed place, she is going to, just attract what she
That's
needed.
what, yeah, the attraction, yeah.
I feel like, Andrew was cool, but it was still coming out of, uh, she was still very much not dealing with her realities. I feel like she's further along on her journey. We've seen her evolutions that she continues to make, and now like just seeing her be human is really refreshing, and just sitting in that space. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, I am also too. But do we have any predictions? Because we see that she didn't go and talk Issa. She didn't go and talk to Condola and Lawrence, right? So her brain is playing with her. Do they have that conversation? Do they not have that conversation? What do you think, Gay?
I think Issa is bound to reach out to Lawrence because it's too much unresolved stuff there, on Issa's end. So if Issa was Charlotte.
How, how, how did we how did we get here, Shaw? How did we get
I'm just saying.
to you coming around to Lawrence, I'm coming around to Nathan? Like, how did we get here though? What's
No,
up
I'm
with this
just saying
role switch?
all like not to say get back with him, just to get this residual whatever that is out. And that I think sometimes can be beneficial. But Issa walked away from him episode 1 of this season. She was just like, nah. So she has to sit with that. She needs a journal or something, like, so she'll know where it is, what led to that decision making, you know what I'm saying? So she can revisit that in future. But Ray had mentioned that, he felt like Issa never liked Nathan. I don't think that's a true statement. I think she was rude by Nathan initially. And I think in some parts, I don't know. So I don't know.
Well, I think.
But I do agree with you. Whatever route she takes is going to require work. And we haven't seen that level of work from Issa ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to both of them, Issa and Lawrence, they both was really feeling the other two people. Lawrence was really feeling Condola. Issa was really feeling Nathan until he ghosted. And Lawrence was really feeling Condola until she didn't want him on that same level. So like they both had the best intentions. They both was feeling that individual until it didn't turn out the way they both wanted. Now what we're seeing is the residue of all of that. So I think I definitely think Issa was feeling Nathan at one point. I think she could potentially feel him now, but no relationship is going to work out if you still think about the last.
That's real.
That just ain't gonna happen. I don't care.
That's
you
real.
can be in love with this person right here, but to what you just said, certain things just aren't resolved. And here's the thing, though, too. A lot of times you're not gonna be able to resolve that.
Well, that's real.
So you gotta figure out.
Yeah,
you gotta figure out how you're gonna resolve that in your head, or go to therapy and have conversations and all the other stuff you need to do, because not everything is gonna be this conversation of what happened. Some things are just going to end, but you are not going to be able to move forward with a Nathan, with anyone, if you still think about what happened and your coulda, woulda, shouldas behind you. That ain't gonna happen.
That's real. That's real. What was the other question about Molly and Torian?
Oh, I was just saying, do you think that can potentially go somewhere?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that'll be good. I don't know. The only hesitancy is about working with someone that you're in a relationship with, like especially that close. But outside of that, like, so got nothing else in the way. Like,
I see everybody else is gonna be broken up, and then Molly might be the only one in a relationship. Ooh. When the show started off, everybody was in a relationship but Molly. Ooh. The show might end with everybody out of relationship except for Molly.
Molly get married at the last episode.
Molly get married the last episode, and everybody just be like, "This is how it is." You know what I mean?
Got a reception from Molly, a virtual reception. Red said he wanted to join. I'm gonna let Red do it. I'm scared, Red. I'm gonna let you join if you still here. And see if he has any predictions for and we can close out.
Yeah, I think the predictions would be dope. Red.
Good evening, my
What's up,
friend.
brother?
How
How
you
are
doing, friend? Long time no see.
Long time no see. Long time no see. I'm just listening to the conversation and I'm so perturbed by the both of you.
Wait. Let me go Google that real quick.
I,
We
I
got a few minutes before we shut down, Red. We don't need a thesis, though.
I'm so
Oh,
perturbed
bothered.
on why you believe that Nathan and Issa could be a compatible couple because they showed us episode after episode that it's just not working. Like Nathan dubbed this woman twice and then is already arguing with her and not even telling his feelings. He'd rather tell his boys of what's happening instead of her. And she's wondering why he's not being consistent and communicating.
That's a lot. You said so much right there, Red. Okay, so the question is, do you think that Issa is going to end up with Lawrence or Nathan or someone else?
Absolutely, because Lawrence tried to propose to Issa, has a ring on deck, but chose not to do it because he found out that she was cheating. Still has said ring. He asked Issa to go to go to San Francisco, but he never asked his baby mama to do that. Has the crib in the apartment, waiting for that to happen.
But
And now
he's moved
he's
back
back
now.
in L.
He's moved
And
back
now,
to LA now.
and yeah, now he's back. Now he's back in LA because of the circumstances, and he's still thinking
Circumstance.
about her.
That's what
And
Well,
and now he's
I,
still
I mean, yeah, there's a
Issa
lot.
already, and Issa already has showed us throughout this episode in particular that she still is in love with Lawrence. She's been hallucinating about this man and what he's got going on, scene after scene after segment, and now she's looking at Nathan crazy. Obviously, they want to have a conversation, and it's going to end up. The ring is here. Lawrence is going to propose. Issa's going to feel some kind of way about it. Wherever that goes is wherever that goes. Nathan was a placeholder. Always was. Always would have been. You don't cry in somebody's mouth and talk about you love them. That's weird. It's weird.
I don't know about that one, but what I
You don't
will
cry.
say is,
You don't cry in somebody's mouth talking about you love somebody else
who's
after a
gonna
year.
who's gonna go around telling everybody that though? Nobody's gonna go around telling nobody that. Nobody's gonna go around and be like, "Hey, yo, Red, guess what happened
If
today,
you
man?
notice,
I
if
cried in somebody's mouth and told them I love them." You know what I'm saying? Like that's not a conversation we're gonna have at the bar while we're taking shots. Like that's just not gonna happen. Like people don't
she
admit
told him
that.
in bed, I didn't know it would be so hard after all of that. Like, see, you telling me what you telling me. You telling me that. Okay. Like,
That's real.
Okay, so Red. So what's the prediction for Molly and Torian?
as far as Molly, I find it weird that Molly has no male friends, that any man that shows her affection, she wants to sexualize them. She did it with Lil Rel. She did it with pretty much every guy that she's been around, man. Like,
What about the men? Are they not attracted to her as well?
it's a
Because Lil
working,
Rel came on to her.
it's a working,
And
Terrell
she
came,
has friends. Lawrence, I don't know.
Those
it,
other
it's a working relationship. We're working this close. We're trying to have a good rapport because we don't really know you like that. You're the new person in the office, and already we're seeing that you're a Miss Turn Up when you're drinking around like that. Like you're showing characteristics. I'm gonna say what those characteristics are, but you're showing characteristics in the workplace. It's gonna be a bad situation if you keep mixing business with pleasure. And she's done it before. It's a pattern now.
I don't know if I can say on that because at this point she's been at that job for at least 2 years. Because remember it was a whole year that passed, so it's not like it happened like within the first 90 days and she was popping her knees. And even so, she was at a retreat, and I don't think that that's her relationship because, like what Charlotte said, like they're all friends from college, so she has male friends. But I hear your point that she don't have that one that she's always having conversations with, but neither does Issa. Issa doesn't have no one guy friend that she's always having conversations with that's platonic.
Yeah, I think it centers the women friendships for sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean that might be speaking to a bigger issue, but they both, neither one of them have that per se. She tried to have that with Nathan, and then we see where we are now, episode 6.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems a little bit weird that it's just like so often that Molly is caught in the same predicament over and over. Issa not so much. Like granted, she doesn't have like too many male companions to confide into, like her
Or
brother,
jobs.
or things like that. You know, like landlords, whatever the case. But it's just that Molly is like she's always in this constant downward spiral of trying to be able to find this balance. and this balance is just not helping her out because she keeps confiding in people that eventually, like, you give them a brownie or something. Like, he's just trying to be helpful to this Crenshaw person, well, whatever the case may be, to help out the business because, self-serving, whatever that may be. But somebody tries to help her at work, and all of a sudden you give him the googly eyes. It's like, calm down. Like we're over here trying to.
Issa had sex with one of her residents when she was a resident manager, yo. Like, I mean, listen, everything you saying, Issa's done the same thing. Like, I'm not seeing where one person did it. I mean, Issa
and I don't feel like Molly
did that.
have sex with him. She acknowledged that there was it was a mutual chemistry, and then she pulled out, like she pulled away from it. You know what I'm saying? She didn't go through. I think an older version of Molly we would have seen the after effects of that. But I think she exercised discernment. You can't help sometimes you bump into people and then they're like, oh wow, like I didn't know.
She has shown growth. Like, I remember a few seasons before, Issa tried to hook her up with like an Asian dude that she was a colleague of, and then she started calling her Jackie Chan. She didn't want to deal with it, and now a few episodes later, we're seeing her with Andrew, and that turned into a whole thing like that. So maybe she's trying to learn from her ways, but she's still a work in progress, like everybody else is.
I mean, it could be a possibility that Issa doesn't end up with none of them and then end up with the Crenshaw guy.
Ooh, I'm down.
See, that was the thing. I was wondering, like,
oh, you're down.
See, this Kofi person is somebody that apparently a lot of women are into these days. So therefore, you're putting somebody like this on a show that's women centric. Obviously, he has to be like a love interest in some fashion or form because it's not going to be Ryan Davis.
I love that they have not played that card yet. You know what I'm saying? And they may not play it, but I think it kind of goes back to this thing Jay Hall said earlier about doing the work, and what we saw Issa with Crenshaw, that he gave her an invitation to, hey, let's have this conversation. What I needed from you was an apology, and for you to acknowledge what happened and the impact that it had on me. Like, I feel like you didn't have my back. And instead of doing that, she said she's going to take her brownies back. That's a complete disengage from like the actual issue that was being presented to her. So I think there's still, like you said, everybody's still on the journey. I do love the pace of this because, I think, Jay, we had talked initially about how fast things are going. But I think right now either I'm used to it and like I'm expecting like a lot of development within this 30 minutes. And like to kind of see, but it doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't seem like The Wire season 5. You know what I'm saying?
Why you got to jab one? Why can't we just stay right here? Because now I'm about to argue about The Wire season 5 because I mentioned. But no, I hear what you're saying. It doesn't feel that way. Although in a strange way, this episode felt shorter than the usual, than the most. But I hear what you're saying. It does feel like a natural progression.
Last week. This week I felt like it was
last week was short.
Short.
I felt that way about this one.
Enough meat in it.
I hear you. I definitely felt that way about this one, but I do think we all gotta leave the door open that it can be a possibility that nobody ends up with nobody. Like, the show doesn't technically have to be about somebody ending up with someone. Because I heard Issa say in an interview when she was like, the way they had to draw the finale was the understanding that these people are going to live their life. We're not writing characters who are about to end. And so I think we all should leave the door open that it's not necessarily have to end with them like getting married and living happily ever after. It could end with just a breakup, but you're going on to a job in Arizona or something like that. Like, we have to understand, like, there's a possibility of that. But we're so used to in sitcoms it being this grand ending. And anything that Insecure has showed us is that it is a very much so reality-based show. And it could end with just like, oh, your happiness is just you just driving off and you being able to order this hot dog from a stand that you never ordered from before. And that could just be Insecure's ending.
I agree. And I was going to say that that I felt like, maybe there's, a conversation about what does happiness look like. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, centered around a relationship and especially for Black women, centered around men.
The Ring is coming 100%. I see it. The Ring is coming.
From Lawrence?
The Ring is coming.
oh yeah. Like.
I mean, I hear you, but I want you to keep in mind, like me and Charlotte said last week, how Lawrence was really into Condola at one point.
Yeah.
Like, we have to keep we all kind of forget, like, this dude was cooking for her and all, like, he was into her until she shut him down.
Yeah.
If that door opens again, there's a possibility he might be emotionally invested. And I'm Team Lawrence. I want to see him and Issa, but dude was really into Condola at one point.
Yeah.
That is true. I like once again, like, you know, I like to use words in a certain way. So when I say the ring is coming, the ring is coming. Does it have to be accepted? Don't know. But the ring is coming. What you do with it is up in the air.
I mean, well, you know. Okay.
I agree. So we'll see where next week takes us on this ride. Thanks so much for joining us, Red. We appreciate your commentary. Of course, thank you, Jay Hall, for, you know, all that you do to anchor this conversation. And I hope everyone has a great week. I guess we're doing the hard work. That's Jay's challenge to us all, to do the work, do the maintenance in your relationships, in your friendships, and in your career. All right, y'all have a great week, and we'll see y'all back here next Sunday. Peace.
Appreciate y'all.